It's July, and that means Gen Con is right around the corner. I'm sure, like me, you're finding it pretty difficult to hold your excitement about what games you're going to demo, as well as how many games you're going to have to sneak home in a box labeled Love and Cookies. Today, I wanted to talk about games that I'm excited about getting my hands on one way or another, in the hopes that maybe I can show you something you haven't seen yet. I will not be including an expansion in this video because I think they could get a whole video all themselves if I have the time. Well, without further ado, welcome to Board Game Rundown. I'm Dan, and today we're going to run down 10 great board games you should check out at Gen Con 2024. The search for UAPs from Renegade Game Studios is in the same line as the search for Planet X and the search for Lost Species, the former of which is a favorite of mine that we have already covered on this channel. As the name suggests, this one focuses on 1 to 5 players trying to track down possible UAPs for future study within the scientific community and deduce their locations. Players will be using tools available to them, including telescopes and cameras, while having to take into account other objects in space that maybe aren't as anomalous, such as satellites or the Hubble telescope. In Planet X, players used a sheet to track all the information they gathered in a way that, to me, kind of felt like solving a Sudoku. It has a very spatial, deductive reasoning puzzle feel to it, I mean. I have to assume this game will have a similar feeling, but we can see from this picture that this time it will be a dry erase board. At the time of recording, the search for UAPs is currently listed as available for purchase this August with an MSRP of $45. For more information, as well as possible demos, I suggest checking out the Renegade Game Studios booth 1619. I'm not sure if this won't be as good as Planet X, but I want to believe. Slay the Spire, the board game, is one I've been watching for a few years now, and was kind of surprised to see it finally available. It gets its name from the well-known roguelike video game where you use your character's asymmetric deck of cards to get as far as you can up the spire before you perish. The board game seems to take this gameplay and turn it into a 1 to 4 player co-op. Players will work together to defeat the enemies one floor at a time while communicating to build their own decks, level up, and push further and further up the rabbit hole. Slay the Spire, the board game, takes deck building, simultaneous play, multiple progression systems, and dual-layer player boards. Slay the Spire, the board game, takes deck building, simultaneous play, multiple progression systems, and dual-layer player boards, and mixes them all into a difficult co-op that has the BGR crew wide-eyed and slack-jawed. Slay the Spire has a July 25th release date, so I assume it will be available for purchase at the Matago booth 2211, though I don't know for sure. It has an MSRP of $115 for the base game. I just had the chance to play Adventure Party, the role-playing party game the other day, and I had a blast. The main gist of the game is pretty simple. 3 to 8 players take on the roles of characters inside a TTRPG setting and work together to overcome a set number of obstacles and quests. Every player is given 1 d20, and on their turn they receive a prompt, such as, you encounter a 100-foot wall, need to get over it, what do you do? That player then rolls their d20 behind a shield and has to explain what happened based on whatever they rolled using basic d20 rules. A 20 being a critical success, 1 is a critical failure, and 10 is right in the middle. The rest of the players then guess what they think the player rolled based on their description. The team gets points based on how close they were, and you move to the next player or task. Most of this game is laughing at each other's ridiculous descriptions as they try to quantify what a 13 means to them in that task. We were laughing the entire time, and I think you guys will too. Adventure Party, the role-playing party game, should be available at Smirk and Dagger's game booth 429 with an MSRP of $40. Forges of Ravenshire is a favorite of this channel, and we've covered it many times. But you should still check it out anyway. Forges plays over 4 seasons, where 1 to 5 blacksmiths compete to gather resources, fulfill contracts, and gain prestige in the hopes of becoming the new Forge Master of the Blacksmiths Guild. Forges is an engine building game that takes off immediately. There is basically no downtime, and you will be constantly assigning dice, adjusting your resources, and planning your next move to get that beautiful sword you've had your eyes on. The art is fantastic, and the actual dice placement system in the game is one of the most fulfilling I've ever seen. Basically, on your turn, you place 1 die and take 1 die, receiving the rewards on both spots. This means there is no location on the board you are locked out of on your turn. It might be less effective than the one you wanted, but that's okay. Just use your resource conversion table and smith anything you wish. This is a great game, guys, and if you get a chance to demo it this year, I say you jump on it. Forges of Ravenshire will be at BA Games booth 2943 and has an MSRP of $70. There is little known about Star Trek Captain's Chair at the time of writing this, unfortunately, but as a recent appreciator of TNG and Star Trek in general, I feel compelled to talk about it. First of all, this Star Trek game is designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turksey, the designers behind the games like Imperium Classics, Voidfall, Nucleum, and Anachrony, just to name a few. This is a dream team of designers for any project, let alone a new Star Trek game. Star Trek Captain's Chair has 1 to 2 players going head-to-head as, well, captains, using their own style of leadership to pursue a win condition that they're comfortable with. Perhaps you want to explore deep space and bring knowledge back with you, or maybe you want to use your own brand of cowboy diplomacy in a fair diplomatic process. The choice and the chair is yours. For more information about demos of Star Trek Captain's Chair and its October release date, check out WizKids booth 711. And together, let's see what's out there. Hey guys, did you know that there's a little like button under the video? I know, I'm just as surprised as you are. YouTube really thought we wouldn't notice. Go ahead and hit that thing to show YouTube that they ain't getting anything past us. And while you're at it, click those subscribe and little bell buttons too. You can never be too careful with these guys after all. Anyway, let's get back to our list. Arcs from Leder Games is a conflict-heavy, space-conquering beast of a game for 2 to 4 players that seems to be Leder Games' answer to games like Twilight Imperium or perhaps more aptly, Last Light. Amass your fleet, bid on guild cards, and engage in all-out battle over the areas of the board in this game of conflict and collapse in the Reach. Now, this might sound like a pretty basic space battler so far, but that's because I've left out the most important part. Everything I've said so far is just half the game. Everything you do, every decision you make in this game is controlled by the other part of the gameplay Arcs offers, which is trick-taking. I'm not gonna lie, anyone who watches this channel knows that trick-taking just ain't my bag, baby. But I love what Leder Games is capable of bringing to the table, and I'm interested in how they mesh these two game mechanisms together. In Arcs, if you lead a trick, you get to take every action on that played card. Now the other players have to make a choice. They can play a higher number of the same suit, becoming the lead card of the trick, while also allowing them to take every action on their card. They can instead play any card face down, but this only gives them access to one action listed on whatever the lead card is. Or they can just simply play off suit, letting them choose one action on the card they just played. There's a lot more to cover for this game, so for a more in-depth review, check out Shut Up and Sit Down. They recently uploaded a review of the game where Tom calls it a modern classic and claims, quote, "It manages to please absolutely everyone, but miraculously suffers absolutely nothing to do so." Okay, Tom, you got me. This game is shaping up to be Leder Games' magnum opus, and I cannot wait to check it out for myself. Arcs will be at Leder Games booth 837 and should be available to demo as well as purchase with an MSRP of $60. Galactic Cruise is a worker placement game for 1 to 4 players where the goal of the game is to become the new CEO of Galactic Cruise by having the most victory points, cough cough theme, cough cough. On their turn, players can choose between placing a worker, sending one of their workers on a cruise, or recalling their workers, all while developing their spaceship and completing certain company goals for the aforementioned victory points. We were actually able to demo this game last year with the designers and were very impressed with what we saw. Whether it's the theme, the tableau building, or the worker placement that pulls you in, I don't think anyone is going to complain about the stunning Art Deco Rocketeer kind of look this game has from the legendary Ian O'Toole. This game also has a variable setup where the worker placement locations will be different every time you play, shooting the replayability through the atmosphere. If Galactic Cruise sounds or looks interesting to you, check out the Kinson Key Game Booth 632 to find out more information on possible demos and its Q1 2025 release date. Wandering Galaxy is another sequel-ish game in a line of games, kind of like our number 10, The Search for UAPs. This time, though, I'm referencing another game I absolutely love, Forgotten Waters. Forgotten Waters was a cooperative story game from Plaid Hat where players took on the roles of pirates and used a worker placement mechanism to attempt skill checks and grow both their characters' personal stories as well as an overarching goal for the whole group. As the name Wandering Galaxy implies, this time we're in space. In Wandering Galaxy, 1 to 6 players become the crew of a starship, exploring the galaxy using the beautiful illustrated book system of games like Jaws of the Lion and the previously mentioned Forgotten Waters. Players choose where to travel, take on daring quests, and choose between different jobs and skill checks to attempt to accomplish their goals of paying off their ship and growing as a person. I'm extremely ecstatic about this one. I love Forgotten Waters to the point that the only thing I thought could improve it was setting it in space. Oh, and by the way, Wandering Galaxy is a Crossroads game. You know those yellow cards from Dead of Winter that were like the best part of the game and desperately needed to be implemented into more things? Well, they're here. Wandering Galaxy currently has a Q4 release date, but should be available to demo, so check out the Plaid Hat Games booth 2221. Dead Cells, the roguelite board game, has a few things in common with the previously mentioned Slay the Spire. Both are based on video games that are about battles of attrition and improvement through failure. While Slay the Spire focuses on climbing a tower floor by floor, Dead Cells has 1 to 4 players exploring a castle, working together to last as long as they can while killing monsters, acquiring treasure, and buying permanent mutations to improve their capabilities. Remember guys, mutations are good. And like similar themed games, death is not the end. You just respawn back at the beginning of the run, keeping any permanent upgrades you received and go again. There are a lot of things to be excited about Dead Cells, but the one thing that moved it this high on my list and put it above Slay the Spire is the publisher. Scorpion Mask is quickly becoming one of my favorite publishers in the industry. They just don't miss, with games like Turing Machine and Skyteam under their belt, both having the potential of being hailed as modern classics. At this point, I'm convinced I'm going to love this game, and if any of this has piqued your interest, then check it out at the Scorpion Masks booth 2435 for information about demos and its Q3 release date. How to Save a World was a smash hit for me when I played it earlier this year, to the point of it being my favorite new-to-me game of 2024 so far. How to Save a World is a worker placement game where 1 to 4 players play as scientists trying to stop an asteroid big enough to be known as a planet killer from, well, living up to its name. Players will be building up their hands of cards and sending their workers to sites on either the planet or the moon to gather resources while working on progressing the 3 tracks in the game. Scientists believe in Plan Bs after all. If shooting the stupid thing doesn't work, maybe our shield will hold up. No? Okay, let's GTFO. There are quite a few magnificent mechanisms in this game. Your workers stay on the board. Whatever workers you have on planet can only go to work placement spots on planet, and the same goes for the moon. Certain locations of the board will automatically shuttle your workers back and forth between the planet and the moon, so you kind of have to think ahead of turn. Yeah, you might really want those 3 batteries right now, but that site is going to automatically ship the guy to the moon next round, meaning you'll have 1 less worker on the planet and 1 extra worker on the moon. Are you going to be able to take advantage of that? This game also has a fantastic tech system where every upgrade on your player board feels like it has a huge impact on the game, and a tag system similar to some you may have seen before, but here you can collect permanent tags and really feel the constant progression of your science. I could talk about this game for a very long time, but if you want to hear more, why don't you check out our review at the end of this video. If you're interested in this game at all, then check out Burnt Island Games booth 2004. Unfortunately, this game is a Q3 2025 release date, but you can still try to find demos while you're at the con. And that's our list. Go ahead and comment any games you're excited about checking out at Gen Con this year and help spread the love with me. If you're interested in seeing a few games with unique themes, then check out this video here. Or don't forget about the How to Save a World review here. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Dan, and I'll see you next time.